Hello and welcome to another Verbling class. We'll get started in just a minute. We'll get started once students arrive in the class. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Taimo. How are you?
I'm okay. You're the only student.
Yes, I am the only one.
I'm sure we'll have a few more visiting.
And
Now,
what's going on?
I might have to leave the class early.
Okay.
My son has got a high fever of 104. I've given him some medicine and it's come down. But I'm going to have to go up and check on him periodically, and if it gets bad, I'm going to have to abort and take him to the hospital.
Oh, oh my God. I hope
But
that you saw it the better.
I'm sure he will be. Generally, with the medicine that we've given him before, it brings his temperature down, brings the fever down under control almost immediately. And I just need to check on that. So periodically, I have to go upstairs and check on that and on his progress. I wouldn't have started class if it actually was still high, but it's something I need to keep an eye on. Raphael, hello, sir.
Hello, Simon.
As I was telling Julian, there is a chance I might have to leave class early because of my son's health, but I will check on that periodically. So in about a few minutes, I'm going to go upstairs, check his temperature, and then I'll do that again in around 30 minutes.
Okay.
All right, so that's kind of got me distracted a little bit. So guys, we're going to talk about marijuana, weed, pot, ganja. It's known by many different things, but its official name is marijuana. It's a drug. In many countries, it's an illegal drug, and in many other countries, it's also used for medicine. There's talk about legalizing it. Several states have legalized it, but the US as a country has not legalized it. I want to hear you guys tell me your thoughts. Do you think marijuana should be legalized? If so, yes. If so, no. If not, why? Again, you've only got a minute in this first round, so think of your major point that you want to communicate. Raphael, I'll start with you. You've got 1 minute.
I'm totally against the legalized marijuana because I think, I don't know, at least here where I live, we don't have enough surveillance to what regards to this matter. And unfortunately, the use of this kind of drugs is really unchecked, and there is a lot of concerns about trafficking and drug trafficking, and a lot of people messing up with their lives because due to this drug and due to this unchecked use of the drug. So unfortunately, here we don't have any kind of control in what regards to the use of this drug, and people, and this could be just an excuse for a more harmful drugs, I think. So I don't think it would be a good idea to legalize the drug here.
Okay, thank you, Raphael. Julian, you've also got a minute. Let me start the timer. What are your thoughts on legalizing marijuana?
Okay, I agree with legalize marijuana because I think that the science improved that the marijuana it's useful for several diseases, for the treatment of several diseases. But the problem is when the people use by to have a good time, but the the way to create awareness in these people is not the provision. You need to take care other around of the social problems, maybe the economical problems that's made the people use these drugs to get out of the reality and to get a good time. And but when you provide the drug, I can finish now.
I'm sorry, yeah, time is
Okay.
up. Greg, what are your thoughts on legalizing marijuana?
Hi. So my thoughts are, I am opposing the changes in the process of legalization of marijuana in practically any country, if that this opinion will be rely on me. I believe that marijuana could be is just a gateway to more serious drugs, and I believe that people they don't know the personality good enough to actually uh, be convinced and to actually be sure that doesn't harm them. I can I still believe there are some good arguments to legalize of marijuana, but those examples could we can use it in many different situations. Like, for example, we have as a free people in many democratic country, we should have a choice what is actually harmful for us or not.
Okay, so I'm hearing a couple of things here. It's a gateway drug, and it's harmful. Okay. Let's have a frank talk here. I'm not into drugs, so I don't even like legal ones. I try to avoid taking drugs unless I absolutely need it, because there are side effects. There are always side effects. However, if I have a joint, a cigarette of marijuana, and I get arrested, what's a reasonable penalty? Should I go to jail for 25 years, 5 years, a year, or should I just get a fine? In the media industry, companies went after individuals for downloading music illegally. In recent years, they're going after the source, those that are making it available. Some have suggested that instead of taking the average person, maybe people are young and they don't know what they're doing, and who knows what the reasons are, does it make sense to apply such a harsh sentence? Do we decriminalize? I'm not saying we don't have penalties for smoking it, but should we remove that criminalization of it for people who have no more than a few cigarettes? A big bag of this, or if you're trafficking, yeah, that's a crime. So that's something I want to add to the conversation here. And what I want to do is I want to now give you guys 4 minutes of talk time like I normally do, and have you guys have a conversation with each other discussing this. Now, Raphael and Julian, I'm going to have you guys go first, and while you guys are talking, I'm just going to nip upstairs and I'm going to check on my son's temperature, but I'll be right back in about a minute. All right, Julian and
Okay.
Raphael, go ahead, please.
Hi, Rafael. How are you?
Hi, Julian. Fine.
Uh,
So are you in favor of drugs? Do you think they should be legalized or not?
yes, I agree with legalize the drug because maybe
Uh,
here in Colombia is a big problem for us, and I convinced that the legalize could finish um, this problem of maybe the black market that is around the marijuana. But maybe you can explain why you are against marijuana.
from I Since I explained earlier, I think that um, since my thoughts and Gregory's thoughts are kind of similar because since I also believe that marijuana is just they consider marijuana I'm gonna say a light drug, just you can't be addicted, you can't get addicted just by using a little bit of, but unfortunately I think this not the it's not the way it is now because from my point of view they try to mix another things in marijuana, more drugs are that this kind of drugs maybe be close to the user. They might be undercover to the user, and the user might be using this and without know what it is. So since there's no such a way to control the production of this drug, anyone with a backyard can grow this kind of plants, this kind of uh, of drug, and can sell to everyone. So of course this is always all under the side of the police. But I don't know. I'm totally against the use of marijuana, use in the drug dealing.
Yeah, maybe you have you are right in some aspects, but I think that really maybe in some cases for few people the conception about marijuana is wrong because maybe I am read about the cigarette smoking and between marijuana, and maybe in some case the marijuana is it's more bad for the health for the people than the marijuana, and maybe uh, I I think that the problem is that like alcohol in the tourists, uh, the people who can't produce, how can you say, and can produce is not the people that now have the control of the other kind of drinks like alcohol or cigarettes, uh, unless it's not considered by the society like a drugs or art drugs. And I think the problem of the marijuana can be solved if you say to people, come on, you are free to decide like alcohol, like cigarette. You're free to decide if you smoke a cigarette.
Thank you, guys. All right. I checked his temperature. It's still a little on the high side. So again, I'm going to go up in about 10 minutes, check on it. It's not going up, but I want to make sure it's, I got to keep an eye on it, guys. All right, next, Greg and Keiko. Again, we're talking about marijuana. Should it be legal? But also, should we criminalize people for possession of small amounts? Should we go after the average person, or should we just go after those that are importing it? The war on drugs hasn't really worked in the United States. We have a lot more people in prisons. We have a lot more prisons. and still we have a lot of crime. So I don't know if that's really working well. What do you guys think? You've got 4 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Hello?
Hello.
Okay, so what do you think about the process of legalization of marijuana?
I think it is a subject, a nowadays subject. It's a problem being discussed in Brazil by the parliament, by the Supreme Court of Justice, the decriminalization of the use of small amounts of cannabis. But I think it doesn't, it will not solve the problem, because the violence is very big in Brazil, mainly among people living in the communities, in poor neighborhoods of the big cities. What do you think?
Well, so you said an interesting thing that is this drug is popular in poor neighborhoods. I mean, actually, I never really tried to think about it if it is a main issue in those parts of the countries. So what I want to say that you said about the Supreme Court. In Poland, we have something like informal situation when policemen when just catch somebody on using those drugs, or maybe redistributing those drugs, he give a warning sometimes, and this person doesn't go to jail. So it could be one of the solutions. So you don't need a decision of the court do it in some cases, but in some situation it just works differently because we're dealing with different people. It should be so. The question is if let's think about the situation. It is legal. Do you think that government could create the tax system for it? Could be a monopolist in the distribution of the drugs? Could decide who will be responsible for distribution of the drugs in a safe way for end users?
Unfortunately, I don't believe it will work here, because Brazilian state is not equipped to fiscalize this kind of distribution. Besides that, I think legalization wouldn't prevent the commercialization or the dealing of illegal drugs.
So you believe that there will be like a black market that you'll be selling marijuana, and there also be a legal way to buy one of them if we have to.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, interesting what you say about a black market. Whenever things become very expensive or difficult to reach, a black market develops. In Canada, the cost of cigarettes are very high. So high that there's a black market for cigarettes. People can get them much cheaper, but this money goes towards organized crime. In Canada and the United States, marijuana is seen as such a passive drug. To many, it's no different than alcohol. In fact, it's very hard to come across people who haven't tried it. I find myself, not having tried marijuana, to be more of the minority than the majority. Now, there are health concerns of what several science shows, and it indicates that continued use of marijuana certainly does affect your memory. Has long-term negative effects on your memory. Now, some would argue that alcohol is far more dangerous than marijuana. Well, I don't know. I don't have the facts or figures. We also haven't had, marijuana has been illegal for about 100 years, so we don't know. But alcohol can be very dangerous. A lot of people die every year because of alcohol abuse. A lot of families break up. It costs society money. All right, next round. Again, I'm going to give you guys 4 minutes of talk time. Once again, unfortunately, guys, I got to step upstairs and just check on my son's temperature. Raphael and Julian, continue the conversation, please.
Okay, well.
Hello. So, still, you live in Colombia, so I've heard lots of news due to the drug dealing in Colombia. It was very strong, at least in the last decade.
Yeah.
Actually, there is a famous TV movie series right here. It's showing the history of Pablo Escobar. I think might be one of the greatest drug dealers in Colombia history. I think so. So how do the Colombians treat about Pablo Escobar history? How do you feel about that?
Well, okay. It's a it's a black point of the history of Colombia because the this kind of maybe related with the subject that we are discussing now. Uh, the the lack of legalization of marijuana and other drugs, because it's not only marijuana, it's cocaine and other drugs that are cool produced by the people in the some areas of Colombia. Uh, that makes, like Simon say, the burn the it makes that the burn a black market for this kind of drugs. And maybe the market is not here in Colombia. The market is in the other countries. The market is in the United States, in Canada, and Europe. But the money and the customs that the people get by the kind of life, it's very dangerous and it's very poisonous about our own society. And that makes that the organization
Julian, you're breaking up.
crime drives the what? Do you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit, but you're breaking up.
Oh, let me. Well, okay. Now better.
Much better.
Okay. I'll stay here more close to my Wi-Fi router. Okay. Um, I feel that the the legacy of this kind of the lack of legalization for this kind of drugs, it's very poisonous for the countries that could produce this kind of drugs. I don't know what you think about it. But in Brazil, you have a similar problems than us.
Yes, yes, the problems here are quite the same. Unfortunately, there is a lot of uh, how can I say? There's a lot of groups of drug dealers and acting in several places, bringing drugs from almost every country of South America, like Colombia and Paraguay, and because unfortunately our borders are badly surveilled. They don't have a good surveillance in our borders, so unfortunately this too easy to get into our country with a drug, and it's concerning. Talking about the effects, long-term effects of drug, I think.
Darn it!
I think.
Time is up.
Oh, sorry.
I can relax. His temperature's down below 102, so nobody likes a fever, but 102 is a lot more, a lot better. So I'm good. I'm happy about that. So I'll be here the rest of the class. Okay, so again, looking at marijuana, it's an interesting drug. So it's one of the ones that is actually a lot of it's produced in this country, legally and illegally. It's sponsored by the government. It has been approved for medical use. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the people using it for medical uses is, I've got a headache. Not what I would consider good use of a drug like that. And I think there also needs to be better studies done on the drug. What about countries that have had it legal for a long time? What have they found? Now, I don't like smoke. I don't like cigarette smoke. And the problem with somebody's right to smoke is that it interferes with somebody else's right for clean air. Now, when I was living in the United States, people chewed tobacco. A lot of people find that gross, but I had no problem with those chewing tobacco because I didn't get to inhale it. But I don't like tobacco smoke just as much as I don't like marijuana smoke. It's smoke. I don't want to inhale it. My memory's bad enough as it is. In fact, I forgot who all you guys are. So we're talking about several things here. Should we legalize it? Or, as some would say, should we decriminalize it for those having a possession of under an ounce, for example? As we have with those who pirate movies and TV shows, instead of going after the average guy and his son and taking away their house through court proceeding and fines, why don't we go after those that are actually making it available? Or do we ban it outright? So, lots to talk about here. The United States, several states have said, yes, it's legal now, if you've got a prescription. However, the federal government says, no, it's not legal. So sometimes they come in and they close down the shops. They charge people because under federal law, it's a crime. All right. Next we have, now who was just speaking? It was Raphael and Julian. So next we have David and Greg. Gentlemen, you have 4 minutes to continue this conversation. And again, I'd advise you guys, if you have smoked, don't admit to it because this is a public forum, right? And don't ask anybody if they've smoked it. Unless, of course, it's legal in your area and you feel that you want to do that, okay? So, gentlemen, you have 4 minutes.
Okay, so maybe we should start about why actually we should support the legalization of marijuana, because there are good arguments against it, and why we should support the process of legalization, because in my country some people think that the medicines had some side effects in the same way like marijuana also has the same similar side effects, and they have like a point of view that should be legalized because they are adult people. They can decide whatever they want, just like they have access to a wide range of medication that can buy in the pharmacy. What do you think? Hello?
David? All right. David not there. So we'll go on to Keiko. Keiko, were you listening?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so in my country, some people believe that marijuana should be legalized because because people have access to many medication that they just don't need prescription. In the same way, they think they could have access to marijuana because if there are medical reasons behind of legalization of marijuana, that also we could apply to medicines and marijuana too. So what do you think? Do you think that marijuana and medicine should be treated in the same way?
We know that several drugs used to cure diseases are extracted from toxic plants, toxic toxic plants, and if the substances of marijuana have medicinal value, I think they could be explored in order to be adopted or in order to compose medicines, but not in the way of a cigarette, of a hemp cigarette. I think they should pass by a process, a chemical process of extracting the substances in order to pure them, to make possible the dosification. Not this could allow.
So it should be more like one of the ingredients, one of the elements of other medicines.
Yes, yes, yes. I think they could be useful to people, not to alter their emotional or their mental state, but to attack diseases.
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh, David's back.
I was here. My microphone was acting up.
Oh. Therefore, you weren't here.
I was here. My
You were
microphone
there.
wasn't acting up.
All right, well, I'm going to pair David with Raphael. I think marijuana is a great... No, I think hemp is a great plant. It grows fast. Its fibers are strong. It's great for making ropes and clothing. I don't know why the growing of hemp is illegal. Okay, yeah, don't smoke it. But in terms of using it for other things like cloth, I think that's a great use of it. What I'd like to hear is, what do you guys think would be appropriate penalties, punishments, fines, jail terms for people who are found, or people who have marijuana in their possession? David and Raphael, go ahead, please.
I think a better question would be, why do we have to do that? I think it's interesting that we look at things like marijuana and other drugs, like somebody is imposing them on us, which is the other way around. The reason we have marijuana, or the reason we have alcohol or cigarettes, is because there is a market for that. So nobody's putting you the marijuana in your face. If you want to try it, try it. If you don't want to try it, don't try it. It's like alcohol.
I disagree.
Alcohol. Well, let me explain. Of course, you're going to disagree. Of course. Alcohol is legal. It used to be illegal in the 30s. They realized, well, we cannot do that. We cannot. It was even worse when it was illegal. There was corruption. There was some people making money. They realized, well, we cannot do that. If people want to get drunk. What's the big deal? Now, the reason there is a huge. Okay, go ahead, Raphael.
Getting drunk, okay, but provided you don't get a car and start going out there, just doing bad things in the traffic, there's no problem. But unfortunately, it's not what happens. There's a lot of people who have no sense of responsibility. And so if you start drinking too much and they don't have control and start doing bad things, killing people. So
Right, but it's like looking at the internet or any other devices. Nothing is good or bad until you make it a habit or make it like an addiction. What I'm trying to say is like anything could be, you can make an addict to it. The reason I'm asking, trying to tell you is that it's a personal choice. You smoke because you want to smoke. You drink because you want to drink. So I think we are going to the wrong aspect to the legalization, penalization. That's it's for me it's like it's not doesn't make any sense because it's not like I'm forcing you to drink. If you don't want to drink, you will never drink, right? Now
it's,
it's what it is. I mean, it's your choice. Nobody's gonna force you. It's not to drink or to use marijuana unless you really want to. The reason that we have a problem is because there is a demand and because it's illegal, so people's gonna find ways to get it illegally, and somebody's making a lot of money, and it's gonna continue doing that because there are a market. There, especially usually in Europe and the United States, these people are willing to pay money for these illegal drugs. So that's why they're a market. If people stop doing that, then there's no market. So there will be no issue at all. You know what I'm trying to say?
yes, I understand, but since you explained, unfortunately everything which becomes addicted, people start losing the power of decision in what to use or not, whether to use or not, because unfortunately these problems are very vicious. They are very addictive, and people start losing the concept: should I or should not use something, because it starts to
So
it's
then the
something.
problem is not the marijuana or the alcohol or the anything else or the
It's the people.
internet
It's,
or pornography. It's not those are not the problems. The problem is that people don't have control over these
exactly,
themselves. So
exactly.
we are not doing the right thing. If you look at that, so what is the issue? The issue is people, not the drug, not the internet, not the pornography. It's people. So when they we need to try to find a ways to help those people to have a better decisions, to make better decisions. And the time is up.
It is up. Well, Julian and Greg, do you agree with David or disagree? Is he full of hot air or is he a bright young man? Well, not so young, as we both know. We're both old. But what do you guys think?
Excuse me?
I know, you've already told me your age. You're about the same age as me. Greg and Julia, go ahead, please.
Wank, wank,
Hello,
wank, wow.
hello, Greg.
Hello.
What do you think about it?
About the legalization, I always, as I said before, it's always up to the people what they use in which way they want to use it. So I agree that people can make a bad decision because they are just the people making just the people, and obviously they're always making mistakes. In this case, it's really hard to predict the behavior, the level of the addiction, if there will be any kind of addiction in the case of marijuana, because there are some theories that it could be a gateway, but it also the marijuana can addict itself. What do you think about it?
Well, I think that the prohibition, I agree with David, is it's it's not the way to ensure or don't will ensure that the people get addicted by the by the marijuana. Uh, I think that the prohibition it's only a way to maintain some interest and the black markets ready to the people that are willing to pay high cost for the drug. But the people don't have to pay um, these I don't know, prison times or other retentions because they consume the marijuana. I think that uh, the way is get the freedom or get the, or say the people that they are free to take a decision about that, about to consume or not consume, to smoke marijuana, to don't smoke marijuana.
Uh, so,
Uh,
so you don't think that it shouldn't be prohibited in your
no,
opinion?
I think so that the to solve the problem it's not prohibited. To solve the problem maybe it's get legal, but that makes uh, the price go down, and so maybe like other products like alcohol or smoke. Uh, in some cases, when the prohibition is it's out, it's finished, the people get more awareness about that, and the people start to think about and really decide if like or not to consume that.
Okay, okay, but for example, if we take a cigarette on the box, you see that you will get a cancer, and they use uppercase letters sometimes to justify to say to you exactly if you will be smoking, you're going to die. And so, do you think that it's just scare them off if someone try to distribute marijuana in this way, like cigarettes or alcohol? That so there are some restrictions, but it's up to you to use
Time is up, Greg.
to consume. Okay.
All right, next we have Keiko and Raphael. Let's see. 4. Yeah, I'll give you guys 3 minutes this time. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Rafael.
Hi, Keiko.
Rafael, we know that drugs bring high social costs to uh, our country because of the violence in the slums and in all the big cities, because of the problems with the borders, which are so large that it is almost impossible to monitor them, to prevent um, the traffic dealing, and the loss of lives, mainly of young guys involved with the consumption and the commercialization of drugs, the problems, the health problems or the diseases brought by the consumption. Uh, there are lots of problems, social problems brought by the drugs in our country. Do you think the legalization would contribute to solve these issues? What do you think about?
No, I don't think so. I don't think legalization would contribute because uh, I think this would only increase the problem because uh, since it's free, it's allowed to everyone to use and to commercialize. It will sort up the harmful effects on our society because there are lots of people, there are huge more people getting addicted, and this will overload our already overloaded health systems, as you already explained, because we have, fortunately, government will have to provide treatment, medical treatment, to help people, young people who have become addicted and start to lose the control of their common sense in what regards to their decisions of life. everything due to the drugs, everything caused by drugs. So I don't think it would be a great idea. I'm totally against the legalization of drugs because in medium and long terms it would be very harmful for our society.
Yes, I totally agree with you. But as we know, former Latin American
Time is up.
presidents.
Sorry, I gotta keep that time. Even though I'm losing my voice. All right, thank you very much. We've lost some numbers. We've lost some guys. So now it's Gregory and David. You guys have 3 minutes. I'm curious to hear what David has to say now. That conversation. Go ahead, please, guys.
I haven't changed my mind. I think there are good reasons to believe that freedom is going to save us. I know that I know that the big corporations are good marketers, and they know how to play with our feelings and our desires and everything else. But we are not stupid. We are human beings, and I don't like the position of the other guys like poor us, poor things. We have to protect them. No, we are human beings. We have the right to say, and we make mistakes. Right? We have to learn from our mistakes. So don't treat us like we are victims. We are not victims here. Oh, poor things. We have to protect them. No, not legalize. That's not the way it should be.
Okay.
What do you think, Gregory? Go ahead.
So obviously we have some choices. We are not the victims.
Of course, we are victims.
In some cases, yes. How do you describe a person who will actually get a marijuana for medical reasons? It won't be because of actually it's redistributed by companies in this way, but more about for medical reasons by the hospitals. They're not the victims. They actually, one of the ways that of the treatment will be using marijuana. Maybe they don't want to.
Yeah, but the big issue here is not the legalization for medical reasons, for what is called recreational use, not the other one. I think the other one is already solved. Some people need marijuana like any other drug. Okay, good. You have some pain. You can choose either traditional medication or marijuana. So people will choose marijuana. Fine. That's not the big issue. The big issue is now for people who want to have marijuana for recreational reasons, like we do with alcohol. So that's the big issue now. I believe that we have to legalize, and people have the responsibility, and we have to educate people with campaigns. And there's proof. The tobacco company is losing millions of dollars in the United States because we have a huge humongous campaign that finally people realize, oh my God, I'm going to die from this stuff. However, the tobacco companies are making money in the third world. They're still making money over there.
I just want to point out, because you mentioned about the campaign against the marijuana. Okay, we can imagine a situation that we have legal marijuana in every country, and most sources are spent on the campaigns against marijuana. And in the same way, people still will be earning money on marijuana. Not directly, but indirectly. It doesn't matter. It will be against our app, but it will be.
We are not children.
Yeah, I know.
Like children. We are not children.
We are not children. No, we're not children, and this sounds very familiar to what I hear in the United States a lot, is that, we are responsible for our own actions.
Sure.
But I'll say this too, is that people do make mistakes, and it's easy to say, well, you knew about this, like smoking, for example. Tobacco companies for years and years said smoking is not harmful. There's no proof that it does anything. There's no damage. They funded an agency that came out to show that there's no evidence. In fact, they tried to find it, and they couldn't find any, miraculously. Then finally, they said, well, it's pretty clear that smoking can be hazardous to your health, and all the information is out there, so we're not at fault. So quite often when I hear the argument that, it's not our fault, or sorry, it's everybody's responsibility, it's somebody else's way of saying it's not our fault. It's a way of blaming others for other people's actions. And quite often we hear this defense from companies. And the tobacco industry will say this, the gun industry, everybody will say, hey, our products don't kill people, it's how people use them. Well, no.
Now, there are two issues going on there. You're taking two issues in not the
There's
same
multiple
thing.
issues.
The first one is that you say the companies are not taking responsibilities. That's not, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the responsibility that we as individuals we should have.
No,
we are not
and
children.
saying,
So don't blame the companies. I mean, the internet.
No, but you can blame the companies, because what has happened since tobacco started their campaign, instead, because they realize
there's no campaign in the state for tobacco.
In the United States, if you have a harmful product, you can get sued out of business. So what the tobacco industry first started doing is they created something called disinformation.
Right.
And that's a way of muddying the water, so that way it confuses people. So the sugar industries used it, the gun industries used it, those who were fighting against climate change used it to say, well, there's no such thing as climate change. Then about 10 years ago, they started saying, well, okay, yes, we give in. There is climate change, but there's no proof that we humans are causing it. Now hold on. Now they're all in Paris saying, even the United States, crap, we've got a big problem here. We need to do something about it.
Right, but that goes
like
to
the oil industry is saying fracking doesn't cause any problems.
Right, but that goes back to critical thinking. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not we are not children. We need to start thinking like adults. We are not stupid. If you think if you want to believe what these people say, well, that's your problem. Keep on drinking, keep on doing marijuana. I mean, even if marijuana is legalized, I will never do that. I don't do alcohol. I mean, sometimes I do alcohol. So it's a personal thing. And if you want to believe that, well, that's your problem. It's not the company.
Let me explain. And I'm going to have to stop you a bit, because I got to give others a bit of a chance here. But what I find interesting with that argument is that it assumes, yes, we're all smart. And who's going to say they're stupid? Well, I'll say I'm stupid, because there's so much disinformation out there on climate change. Several years ago, even I had trouble trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong. And when you create such a climate of disinformation, when you have credible sources, or what appears to be credible sources saying things, creating disinformation, then now you're at a situation where you're not sure who to trust. I am not a meteorologist. I don't understand climate sciences. Yes, I understand basic weather forecasting, but that doesn't not make me an expert. And to go through all these facts and figures, I can't do it. I don't know what is true. It's kind of like talking about half-truths. Some would say half-truths are lies. And disinformation is like lying to people. And even the last president of the United States believed and knew that climate change was happening. But they didn't want to admit to it because they were afraid of what would happen to the economy in certain industries. So they said, hey, we're not saying that there isn't climate change. Obviously, the planet's changing. But we don't have all the information yet. And that was a key thing he started using, and others will use too, because you're never going to have all the information. Never. Think about that. When are you going to have all the information? Well, if you're God, if you are omniscient, then you would have all information. So keep in mind that when you're having some of these discussions, that yes, we need to be responsible adults, and yes, we need to try and find out. But when we have people out there and purposefully misleading us, going into our governments, providing millions of dollars to help them get reelected, chances are we're not going to get the honest goods. So what I want to do is give each of you a minute to kind of sum up. And I'm going to start with Raphael. What do you think, Raphael? Your final thoughts?
I kind of agree with you when you said about we unfortunately we're not totally aware about the harmful effects of getting addicted to drugs, and not even to beer and other substances we have to ingest. Due to several reasons, as you already explained, the government, they're trying to hide this information from us, and David tells us that we, of course, we're adults. Everyone is adult, and we have our choices. We have to take our responsibilities in our choices. But unfortunately, this is not what the way it happens. Unfortunately, people are not aware about the everything about the harmful effects of drugs, and we are not ready to take the responsibility, from my point of view.
All right, thank you very much. Greg, your final thoughts.
Okay, as I said, everyone have a own choices, and we are adults. We can make a bad decision, good decision, and maybe I should at the end I should mention about something new. A couple of years ago, we had a designer drug legal in our country. More or less, it is more about the substances that people use it to collect things, and many of them they try to consume some of them, and many were actually died because of it. So our government make a quick action to make it illegal. What was happened? People still taking those substances. They just don't go to the store, but they will still find some people who have access to those substances because it was legal in the past. Maybe some people have it in their apartments. I don't know, but people making good and bad decisions based on that. Government make decision about legalization or make it illegal.
Yeah, and one thing to do, which kind of helps when you're trying to figure the truth out, always follow the money.
Yeah.
If a group is saying something, well, who funds them, right? Who do they work for? And that helps sometimes, at least identifying the bias that might be coming out of.
And I just want to point out the person who actually founded those designer drugs in Poland actually was a normal guy, 22 or 20 years old, not a gangster, who just want to create a company. And later,
I gotta stop you because I've got very limited time left.
Okay.
Let me go to David. David, your final thoughts.
I stick to my guns, and I think what you're just saying for me is like two issues. You don't understand the issue that I'm trying to tell you. We are adults. We have to take responsibility. And the only way to battle anything with drugs or is harmful for you is giving people critical thinking skills so they can think about that. And even with that, when you are teenagers, we always have these, because we are young and stupid, we still will make mistakes, and that's part of being human beings. But I don't blame the corporations. Yes, I understand that these guys sometimes they misinform people. Yes, that's true, but it's also a responsibility for you to say, okay, right. But if you see somebody, some things are obvious. The legalization of alcohol doesn't make it better for our society, but we are conscious of the effects, and there is less corruption. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. I'll say this one last thought on that. Companies are not in business to give you the right information. Companies are in business for one purpose and one purpose only, to make money for their shareholders or for their owners if they're private. They're not in business to give you the right information. That's clear. And in a capitalist environment, that is definitely the truth. And if somebody tries to tell you otherwise, well then, they're not doing right by their shareholders. All right, Keiko, your final thoughts. Go ahead, please.
On one hand, I agree with David, because there is a great dose of individual responsibility to make people responsible for their own choices. I think it is extremely important the role of the families to educate their sons and daughters, to make them able to make up their minds, to take good decisions, to avoid problems, to avoid issues to their health, avoiding the consumption of drugs. But okay.
Yeah, time is up, and I think we certainly got out of this class some other things we can talk about. Let me just write some points down. One thing I think is very interesting is we always say that we need to be adults and take responsibility for actions, and I think we also need to hold companies responsible for their actions. Look at 2008 when banks were bailed out in the tunes of billions and billions, almost $1 trillion, or more than $1 trillion. Well, they weren't being held accountable. They were being bailed out. Yet, if you owed money to a bank in the form of a mortgage, guess what? They came and took your house from you. So we do see a lot of double standards, and quite often, again, follow the money. But that's enough of today's conversation.